My name is Brooke Michael, and I want to welcome you to the University of Michigan Flint's RN to BSN program for early assurance. So we want to start off today with what is early assurance. So students a lot of times want to know what is our early assurance program for our RN to BSN students to get into an MSN or DNP. So this program is specifically for admitted RN to BSN students. So if you're a prospective student, this can be available to you once you are admitted into our program and complete some pre-classes, pre-admission type classes. So these classes are all required. We're going to talk about them on the next screen in our RN to BSN program. They just need to be completed before you can apply into the early assurance program. So what the early assurance is doing is it's as long as you have maintained a specific GPA, you will be holding a seat in a session for the MSN or DNP that you choose. So when you're ready to start that MSN or DNP program, your seat will be saved. As we all know, an MSN and DNP program is a competitive admission application. So that means that only a certain amount of students get in. This is an opportunity for our RN to BSN students to hold their seat and know that they're guaranteed into the MSN or DNP in the semester they choose. So there are, like I talked about, 4 classes that need to be completed before you can fill out this form on the early assurance. So again, as long as you've RSVP'd, you're going to get this slideshow presentation. So you'll be able to receive this form along with the form is listed on our University of Michigan Flint's RN to BSN website. So you would fill out this form as soon as you have completed in a C-180, NUR 300, NUR 307, and NUR 369. Once you've completed those classes, either at the University of Michigan Flint, or if you've potentially transferred 1 or 2 of them in, then you would fill out this form. Now, keep in mind that you must have received a B+ or better in all 4 of the classes before filling out the form. If you received a grade lower than a B+, like for the program, it only requires a C in these classes to graduate with your RN to BSN program. So if you received a lower grade, then you would need to repeat the class and get a higher grade of a B+ or better before you can fill out this form and hold your seat for early assurance. Now, when you fill out this form, you're going to pick the semester in which you want to start into the MSN or DNP program. Now, keep in mind when you fill out the form, when you're picking that semester that you want to start into graduate programs, whether it's MSN or DNP, you must have completed the RN to BSN curriculum before you can start into graduate level programs. So don't pick a semester that you know you wouldn't be done with your RN to BSN. For example, if you feel like you would be done with your RN to BSN by December of 2021, then you could pick the January or winter term of 2022. Now, if you didn't or weren't going to be completed with your RN to BSN by January of 2022, then you would not want to pick the January 2022 start for the MSN. You would want to pick the next year's start, which is January of 23. Now, we're going to talk about it a little more on the next few slides, but keep in mind that the DNP starts 3 times a year, whereas the MSN is only ever a January start. The other thing you need to keep in mind is that you must maintain a 3.5 GPA in your University of Michigan Flint coursework. That includes the RN to BSN curriculum that you complete at the university, along with any general education courses or certificate type courses. Anything you take at the university, your GPA must stay at a 3.5 overall or above. Now, if you transferred classes in, again, those classes don't count. So your transfer classes, you don't have to worry about, but you must maintain a 3.5 or higher GPA at the University of Michigan Flint. So if you get a C in a class, remembering you're going to have to get at least an A+ or whatever to counter-react those lower grades. Again, those 4 classes listed above must be a B+ or better in all 4. It's not an average, whereas the overall GPA is that average 3.5. You must have a B+ or better in those 4 classes in order to apply. So the early assurance deadline dates, these, you can fill out that form on the last slide at any time when you're ready. So you completed those 4 classes and you know when you're going to graduate with your RN to BSN and you know when you want to start into graduate programs, you can fill out that form today. If you know those 3 things, you've completed the classes, then you can go ahead and fill out the form today. But just keep in mind, there's only 3 times a year that they evaluate the early assurance. So that would be July 31st, November 1st, and March 15th. So those are the 3 times a year that you would hear back from the early assurance committee that you were admitted. So it would be within the month of one of those dates. So for example, if you fill it out today, since we've already passed that March 15th deadline, the next time they would evaluate the early assurance would be around July 31st. So let's talk about the fact that although you are filling out that form and can fill that out anytime to get that early assurance guarantee as soon as you finish those 4 classes, you do still need to complete the graduate application. Now, again, if you have been accepted in the early assurance program, your seat is held. So as long as you turn everything in by the deadlines, you will not be denied or that seat taken away. The only way, once you've been admitted as an early assurance MSN or DNP student, the only way that could be taken away is if you didn't turn everything in by a deadline or you were unable to start at the time you specified in that form. So this information is also listed on our University of Michigan Flint graduates website. So if you need this additional information, you lose this slideshow, just know that all of this information is also listed there. So you must turn everything in by the deadlines. So again, the MSN is always a January start. So everything must be turned in by June in order to start in January. So if you're not planning on starting until January of 23, then you would turn everything in by June 1st of January 2022. Again, if you're wanting to start this upcoming semester of January 22, then you need everything turned in by this upcoming June 1st of 2021. Application deadlines for the DNP, there are, as I spoke about, 3 times a year that you can admit for the DNP. So there's a fall, a winter, and a spring, and they're different application deadlines each year. Again, you just have to have those turned in before the year you're planning on starting. So if you're not planning on starting until the fall of 23, you don't need to turn things in until May of 23. So just keep those things in mind. So these, again, are all listed on our website, but these are the things that you have to have turned in by the deadline. Again, the form can be filled out anytime. It's not a big deal, but keep in mind that these things need to be turned in by those deadlines that we listed on the last slide. This information, again, is listed on our University of Michigan website, so you can go through that and make sure you get everything turned in. So the early assurance program is for our different tracks. There are different tracks for our MSN and our DNP. The MSN has family nurse practitioner and nurse educator, whereas the DNP has acute care, gero, psychiatric, and family nurse practitioner. When you fill out that form, you will specify whether or not you are wanting to go into the MSN or the DNP, along with which track you're wanting to go into. So let's talk about some common questions that a lot of students have. So can I repeat a course to get a better grade? Absolutely, you can. So if you get below that B+ in those 4 classes we talked about, 300, 307, 369, and 180, then you could retake it to get a better grade. Keep in mind that if you retake one of those 4 classes, when you fill out the form, it's going to ask you, did you repeat or retake the class? And if you did, you will need to give a reason. For example, I was mandated the first time I took the class and wasn't able to perform as high as I wanted, or whatever your situation was, and the reason that you were unable to get a B+ or better the first time. Any of your other classes, whether it's a general education or another RN to BSN course, and you end up needing to repeat, you will not have to explain or fill out why you did that. But on those 4 classes, if you don't get a B+ or better and you need to retake, you will be required to fill that out. So keep that in mind. What if I need to choose a different start date than the one I picked in my original application? So if you do that, you will lose your seat in the early assurance program. So if you pick January of 22 start, and then you decide, you know what, I got life come up, something came up, I can't start in January 2022. After all, I want to start in January of 23. Just know that you lost your early assurance and that you will need to refill out that application, and you will be put into the regular pool of students for the following semester. So make sure when you're filling out that form, you have a good idea by speaking with your advisor and your family to know when you're going to be ready to start into graduate level coursework. Can I take time off? So with the RN to BSN program, as you know, it's very flexible. You can go as fast or as slow as you want through our RN to BSN program. So you can take 1 class at a time. You can take 2 classes at a time. Just keep in mind that if you filled out that form and picked a specific start time, that if you take time off, you may need to speed it up a little bit to still meet that deadline so that you have your RN to BSN done by the start of your graduate programs. Now, once you start into the MSN or DNP, when you do that secondary application, you're going to pick part-time or full-time. So you will need to make sure that you know what you want to do in both of those. So once you start into the graduate level coursework, you can't, it's not as easy to take time off because the classes are cohorted or the information is built on each other. You need the first class to be successful in the second to be successful in the third, etc. So if you have a life event and you need to go from part-time to full-time, or you need to take a semester off, know that it could delay your graduation up to a year once you start into that graduate coursework. Can I transfer in the pre-admission courses, that 300, 307, or 369 or 180? Absolutely, yes, you can. You can absolutely transfer those classes in. If you did, just make sure that you put that on the form where you transferred it in from. We suggest speaking with an advisor first because they can look easily at your transcript and tell you, hey, it was this class that you took at this community college and here's your grade. So you may want to meet with an advisor before you fill out that form to check on those grades and those transfer courses. Do I need to take the GRE? No, you do not need the GRE to get into either our MSN or our DNP program. Do I need to come to Flint? During that RN to BSN coursework? No, you do not need to come to Flint. But once you start into either the MSN or the DNP, you will come to Flint about 3 to 5 times a year. It's for a checkoff in most of the practicum courses. So like if you have a course, you may come to class and come to the campus for 1 to 2 days, and we do checkoffs, or we have patients for you to go through and do a procedure for the very first time. Will you help me with clinical placement in the MSN and DNP? So those clinical hours that you're doing in your graduate coursework, again, not in RN to BSN, but into your graduate MSN or DNP, those clinical hours will be completed in your area. You're only coming to Flint a few times a semester, 1 to 2 times a semester, or 3 to 5 times total a year for those checkoffs. So the remaining of those clinical hours will be completed in your area. Keep in mind that we do have a clinical coordinator that will help you find clinical placement in your area within 2 hours. If you live in a metropolitan area, it'll more than likely be much closer than that. But if for some reason you lived far up north and maybe you picked a specialty like psychiatric and there just wasn't a hospital nearby, then it could be up to 2 hours. But our clinical coordinator will help you find clinical placement in your area. What you want to keep in mind is that you will need to take an active part in this finding of a clinical placement. So you may need to make some phone calls, maybe drop off some papers or things like that. So Peggy and you will work closely to find clinical placement in your area. Since I'm required to fill out that graduate application, is there any reason I won't get in? No. Once you have gotten that early assurance letter that says that you are admitted into the MSN and DNP, you will not have any reason that you won't turn it in as long as you maintain that 3.5 overall GPA, turn in all of the graduate applications by the graduate applications deadline, then they will not take your seat. The only other thing that could remove your seat is if you choose not to start in the semester you picked on your form. So as long as those three things are in place, there is no reason that you will not, or you would have your seat taken away from you. So how long does it take? For those RN to BSN classes, again, you complete them at your pace, as fast or as slow as you want. You just want to make sure that you get done in time to start the MSN or DNP in the semester you picked on your form. Once you start into the MSN, which would be a January term, the classes would be for part-time 2 years and 8 months and full-time 1 year, 8 months. Again, that's only once you start into graduate programs. So let's say that you're going to finish up your RN to BSN program right now, and you're going to start January 2022 into the MSN. It would be from January 2022, 1 year, 8 months for full-time, 2 years, 8 months for part-time. Same thing for the DNP, but the DNP is going to be 3 years, 4 months for full-time and 5 years, 4 months for part-time. So again, let's say you're starting in this fall, you're going to be done with your RN to BSN this summer, and you want to start into the DNP in the fall, 3 years and 4 months from your fall 22 start in the graduate level coursework. So again, RN to BSN as fast as slow as you want. Once you start into graduate coursework, that's when this time frame starts. Can I work full time during those RN to BSN courses? Yes, because you can go as fast or as slow as you want. So we just adjust the schedule as needed for your work schedule. Now, when you're choosing whether or not you want to be a part-time or a full-time student in graduate programs, we do not recommend working full-time and going to school full-time. There's a very heavy load. So if you need to work full-time, we would recommend the part-time status. Now, we do not regulate this. You know what's best for you and your family and for you and your work life. So you make that decision based on what is best for you. How many classes do I take each semester? In the RN to BSN, again, you take those as fast or as slow as you want. So you dictate the class count and the speed. But once you start into graduate programs, the part-time status is about 2 classes or around 4 to 6 credits a semester, and full-time is going to be around 3 to 4 classes, around 8 to 9 credits a semester. Why should I do the DNP instead of the MSN? So let's talk about how long you're planning on being a nurse practitioner. If you're planning on being a nurse practitioner longer than 10 years, we highly recommend that you go for the DNP. The field is moving towards a DNP. So you will always be able to be a nurse practitioner as an MSN, but the job opportunities out there, they're asking and looking more for a DNP nurse practitioner than an MSN right now. And we see that trend going that way. So if you're planning on being in the field more than 10 years, we highly recommend, I know it's a little bit more of a time commitment to do the BSN to DNP, but it's still going to be shorter in the long run than doing the BSN to MSN. And then if you wanted to specialize a BSN or an MSN certificate in psych, gero, acute care, things like that, and then doing a DNP, or even doing the BSN to MSN, then doing the MSN to DNP. It's still going to be shorter in the long run to do it all in one failing swoop. And it's going to be better for you as far as job opportunities go in the future. So what are your next steps? We always suggest booking an appointment with an advisor to go over your plan so that you can have an idea of when you're going to graduate. Even if you've already created a My Degree plan with your advisor, we do suggest a meeting with them again to make sure everything's in order and when you should fill out the form. We can also help answer any questions about the RN to BSN program, the early assurance, or the MSN and DNP. The easiest way to book an appointment is to go to our website. Just go to umflint.edu/online and click the book an appointment button. We offer phone and virtual appointments, and we always will. And once we're hoping this fall, once campuses open back up, we will be able to have face-to-face appointments again in those different locations that are bold down below. We will always offer phone and virtual appointments, all for advisors, so that option will never go away, but we hope to be able to offer face-to-face again soon if that's a preference you prefer. We do have extended time slots on Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. So if you have an odd shift and you need an early or late appointment, we have those opportunities on Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Tuesdays and Fridays, there are still appointment slots, but they're going to be a more traditional time of between 8 and 4. So these are the different advisors you can work with. Again, I am Brooke. You'll see there's Jennifer, Stephanie, and Tiffany, and you'll see their different office locations. Again, if you prefer face-to-face, that's where you would be able to meet one of them. And then if you want, you can work with any of us anytime you see a time slot that's open, or you can stick with any of us from the beginning to the end. So we hope you enjoyed our presentation. If you have additional questions that were not answered during the presentation, you are welcome to email any of us or text us. That information on that last slide had our email along with our text cell phone numbers, so you can contact us whichever way is best, or book a phone appointment if you want to speak to one of us over the phone. Thanks, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.